Alright, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to Post-Match Live. Back in the wins. Chelsea 1, Manchester United 0. My name is David. I am from We Ain't Got No History, which is this webpage or Facebook page that you're watching this on, so presumably you already knew that. But if you didn't, now you do. That introduction, as usual, unpracticed and just as bad as it ever, but fortunately much worse than Chelsea were today, who were actually very, very good. A perfect response, really, after the midweek nonsense, which actually we didn't do a video on, mostly because I was sick and still am a little sick. You might be able to tell from my voice or when I descend into a coughing fit, but we'll cross that line if we get there. The most important thing, Chelsea won, Manchester United 0. Conte is back, and so are Chelsea. I think it's fair to say. Are we a one-man team or are we a two-man team? Considering we need both Conte and Hazard. Usually, although today it was the Azpilicueta to Morata express that has worked, I think, 4 times now, and Azpilicueta has a 5th assist from a through ball. But that cross from the right side to the far post for Morata to head in is worked its magic once again. And really, even by then, Chelsea should have been up by several goals, I believe. We missed at least 2 sitters before then. It was Bakayoko in the first half, and Hazard missed one in the second. And there was, of course, the quote-unquote disallowed goal from, it was Phil Jones scoring into his own net. But Anthony Taylor, who, as it turns out, was born 6 miles from Old Trafford, decided that Morata pushed or breathed on Jones, so that goal was chalked off. But in the end, it didn't matter, as Morata got his a real goal for himself, and really we should have easily put United to the sword for another 4-0. Alas, it wasn't, but a win's a win, a clean sheet's a clean sheet. Another failure to score for Mourinho's teams in a big game. There were a couple dicey moments towards the end. Courtois made one really nice save. I think it was on Fellaini. Rashford missed with a free kick that kind of just barely flew high. So there's, as always, that's the problem with not scoring the second goal is one moment, one lapse of concentration, and they're back in the game. But fortunately, that didn't happen. So with the win, we remain 4th, which is unfortunate, but we're actually just 1 point behind Manchester United now, who will remain in 2nd. Spurs remain in 3rd after beating whoever they beat, Crystal Palace, earlier today. So really, the perfect response, the only response that would have allowed after the midweek disappointment, so to say. I really don't think we played as badly against Roma as everybody makes it out that we did. And we were gonna revisit it, but who cares at this point, right? I thought we played decently enough in the first half against Roma, and then just absolutely collapsed in the second. No such issues today. Chelsea played really well in the first half, and probably even better in the second half. It helped a little bit that Mourinho had to open up the formation even more for United. They seemed a little confused by the subs that he was making. When he put on Martial and Fellaini, they started looking disorganized, which is not something that is unique, really. That tended to happen even when he was at Chelsea, and he started mixing things around. We often looked a little disorganized, but it all worked out in the end. So with Conte back, we actually went. I was expecting us to go with a 3-4-3, as we have been forever. Conte, his superhuman skills kind of make that formation go anyway. But not only did we get him back, we also reverted to the 3-5-2. And it was a bit of a similar setup to what we saw at Atletico Madrid, which is arguably one of, if not our best game of the season. So perhaps we were trying to channel some similar strategies, expecting United to kind of approach the game the same way Atletico approached that game. In a way, United were not as defensive, I don't think, as we probably were expecting. But it all still worked out in the end, so it's okay. So 3-5-2 with Courtois in goal. Cahill, Christensen. There's a decision that is sure to dominate headlines for the next. Well, we have an international break coming up, so the next 2 weeks was Christensen getting the start in the center of defense instead of David Luiz in between Cahill and Azpilicueta. So yeah, a couple of things there. Obviously we're trusting Christensen, so that's good. You know, who says we don't play the youth? Christensen is going to be the poster child, really, of Chelsea's loan system and how him and Courtois, I guess, both together, is exactly the master plan and the ideal outcome that we want for any of the best players who come through or are signed by Chelsea. But yeah, David Luiz being on the bench, get ready for the palpable discord, training ground bust up, all those headlines. I'm not really sure what to think of that just yet. There are several. I've seen several reports of David Luiz carrying an injury for a while, and he had been playing with a wrapping on his knee or whatever, his thigh. At least one newspaper, I think it was The Guardian, listed David Luiz as doubtful for this game. But then before the game, apparently Conte had gave an interview and was asked about this decision, and he said it was tactical, whatever that means. Maybe, I have no idea. And really, it's obviously we've been grooming Christensen to replace David Luiz in the long term. I don't think that time is here yet, but maybe it was just basically a form thing. Maybe, and really what kind of points towards just maybe there being something to this whole training ground thing. You know, David Luiz did, his reaction to getting substituted was not exactly perfect whenever that was in that one game. I forget exactly when it was, but he apparently got told off for that. So, I mean, there could be some, issues between the two of them because I understand making the tactical choice to go with Christensen over David Luiz, but then why not put David Luiz on the bench? Instead, you put Ethan Ampadu, who I'm sure deserves his chances, of course, but the dude is 17, and there's not really seeing the tactical advantage of putting Ampadu on the bench as opposed to David Luiz. So maybe there is something to this whole. It has shades of the Conte versus Costa thing, not the one that eventually ended up in Costa being sold, but there was a game earlier last season against Leicester City when Costa and Conte got in a verbal fight on the in front of all the cameras, and I believe Costa got dropped for a game after that. So maybe it was just one of those things. Conte needs control and needs to reassert himself, and really it's all about him. So it worked out in the end. Christensen played really well. I thought there was one amazing interception, not so much in terms of technical ability, tactical things, but just keeping your composure and making the play when you needed to make the play. When he intercepted the ball for Rashford towards late in the second half with a nice sliding tackle / clearance. So that was, good stuff from Christensen. Luiz is arrogant, so he needed to be benched. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think I could see there being a bit of a clash of, I don't know, egos, personalities, whatever. We talk about David Luiz being a big personality, and so is Conte. So it's one of those where you want those kind of players. You want players to be passionate and lead by example, stuff like that, and say all the right things, which David Luiz does. but maybe sometimes there's a bit of clash, and that's nothing that you can't work out usually on the training ground behind the scenes. Hopefully, it is just one of those. So Cahill, Christensen, Azpilicueta, your three-man defense today. Alonso and Zappacosta as the wingbacks, as expected. Zappacosta was all right, but he was always going to be the obvious first change if we needed to go a bit more stronger defensively. And then the midfield three of Bakayoko, Fabregas, and Conte. I think a lot of people expected either Bakayoko and Fabregas to be dropped. There were some rumors that we might even start with a Conte and Drinkwater midfield. As it turns out, I think the three-man midfield of Bakayoko, Fabregas, and Conte is pretty spectacular. And today especially, it's really nice. I mean, Conte is Premier League Player of the Year. It's not really like a strong opinion to call him like super important to the team and how we play, but just little things like him being back and covering for those two guys, allows Bakayoko to do things that we haven't seen in a while, which is like pick up the ball and drive at the defenders and the midfielders, get into positions where he can miss sitters. Use his aerial ability and not have to worry too much about covering passing lanes and dropping back and stuff like that. And it freed up Fabregas as well to basically concentrate on making good passes, which was bad times when even Fabregas was misplacing his passes against like Roma and teams like that. So Conte's back, and suddenly Bakayoko and Fabregas look miles better than they just did 4 days ago when they both looked dead and done. And that's the difference that the most important player on the team can make. And I mean, you can say we're too reliant on Conte, but really, what other player is there in the league or even in football who could really be a backup for him and provide the same exact impact to the team? Maybe, I don't know, whoever like this, Naby Keita maybe, but that guy costs 100-some million pounds. So, it's one of those things where you just hope that Conte stays healthy. We've had his one injury now. Hopefully this hamstring doesn't recur. Ghana, good shout from Chuck. People do say Ghana Gueye is pretty close, and he would have been a good signing a year and a half ago when Everton got him. But maybe when Everton get relegated, we can pick him up as an option as well. And I think Bakayoko is the same type of player. He's more of a Matic, if anything. Maybe with development. He is only 22, Bakayoko, so he's got a ways to grow and develop. Yeah, Ghana is certainly a quality player, and Everton got a nice bargain there when they picked him up from Aston Villa. So that was midfield, and the front two of Morata and Hazard, which is a pretty obvious combination, and actually a pretty good performance from both of them. Hazard, they try to do the usual thing on Hazard where you kick him a lot and man mark him. And certainly they had both Herrera and Bailly man marking Hazard, but our others stepped up. Bakayoko especially made his presence felt as Hazard pulled wide, kinda, and occupied those two players. It opened up spaces for others to work in. Morata did all right, I thought, despite his usual couple going to ground a little easily a couple times, but then also actually getting kicked quite a bit from behind, and it took a while for the referee to even give one of those fouls. But eventually the yellow cards started piling up piling up is an overstatement, but Jones, Herrera, and Fellaini all got yellows for Manchester United. Herrera certainly should have been sent off for one of his, 6-7 yellow card worthy challenges. Phil Jones possibly could have collected a second yellow as well. So I think Eventually, not even Anthony Taylor could ignore all those usual fouls. And it's the same. We've seen this game plan from Mourinho a couple times now. It backfired for him spectacularly. The one time Herrera got sent off, I was the referee then was Michael Oliver. It worked out well for him the other time when they actually beat us in the league. I think it was 2-0, and there was like open season on Hazard, and everybody just kicking him, and everybody taking turns to kick Hazard. So then the referee didn't punish any of the players. So we've seen this strategy from Mourinho many times, and fortunately, it's only worked for him the one time. So good for us, bad for him. Yeah, incidentally, Mourinho's now come to Stamford Bridge 3 times with Manchester United, twice in the league and once in the FA Cup. He's yet to score a goal, and he's yet to collect the point. So, yeah, not so special on that one. Yeah, the referee was clearly against us today. It is one of those where you see the name Anthony Taylor and you're like, that guy I don't have a good feeling about him. But then all these decisions start getting made, and suddenly somebody looks it up and says, oh, he was born 6 miles from Old Trafford. How does he ever get any Manchester games whatsoever? He supposedly supports some team, some small team where he was the local area where he's exactly born, but like, that's impossible. I don't understand how anybody born in the vicinity of Manchester could ever referee a Manchester game, Manchester United or Manchester City game, even if they're not a fan. I mean, you're just bound. You're either a fan or you hate him. Either way, you're not going to be impartial in your decisions. So I don't know. It's one of those head scratching things where you're like, how does this ever happen? United lined up in a 3-4-1-2, which is kind of it's a play on the 3-4-3, 3-5-2 setup that most teams like to play these days, thanks to Conte. It's the same setup that United used against Spurs a couple games ago when they got the 1-0 win there. De Gea in goal, Bailly, Smalling, and Phil Jones across the back there. Ashley Young and Antonio Valencia as your pair of 32-year-old wingbacks who I have no idea how they keep going and putting in decent enough performances. Herrera and Matic for them in the midfield. Mkhitaryan, who is absolutely useless as the number 10. And then a front two of Lukaku and Rashford. Lukaku also fairly useless, unlike Morata, so that was a nice thing to see today. Old Romelu had one shot, one scary run, but I don't think he ever came close to really scoring, or even really being involved in the game, which is rather I don't know. That's good luck with that, Romelu, when Mourinho starts calling you out in public. Yeah. Rashford always looks promising and quick and whatever and dangerous. I don't understand why he takes their corners, but that's just one of those where I'd never understood where like sometimes we'd have Drogba take our corners, and what's the point? He needs to be in the area. Yeah, I need to be more clinical. It says Prana should have scored at least one more. So many good chances down the drain. We missed a ridiculous amount of chances. At least 2 sitters before the goal, another one after the goal where Hazard just kind of shot right at. Was it Hazard again? I don't remember. But yeah, we need to work on our finishing. Is the obvious lesson from this game. Obviously, some of finishing is luck. Some of finishing is skill. I wonder if they released the XG numbers yet. Let's see if I can look this up quickly. I'd be interested in seeing how much. Yeah, okay. So Michael Cayley, who's one of the proponents of this XG expected goals, gives us a 2.1 versus a 0.8. So really, one major chance. Apparently, our biggest chance was the Fabregas header I'm not so sure about that. That was a pretty tough chance for Fabregas to head the rebound in for at the far post. But that's what we get the biggest expected goal button for. There was the Bakayoko missed chance. That was the other big one. And the Morata one. Yeah. United had one big chance, and I think that was the Rashford header in the first half. But again, this is the trouble with the expected goals. I think is Rashford gets a big chance marker for that one, but on replay, it kind of looked like if he doesn't head it over, then he just heads it right into Courtois, who was kind of just spreading himself and jumping up. But whatever. Expected goals agrees with the eye test that we were the better team. Yeah, Morata and stoppage time. Oh my God, Alvaro, little it's got shades of Diego Costa dribbling there in the second half. Old Alvaro Morata, they stick to heading the ball. I don't know. I mean, it's tough to criticize him because he set up Hazard's goal against Bournemouth a couple of games ago by dribbling around four players and holding the ball as he was surrounded. So, we know he's got foot skills, but at least twice today, Chris Smalling got the better of him as he tried to turn him one way, then turn him the other way. I don't know, just at some point you just got to take a shot, I know Morata likes his right foot. He sometimes just needs to take a shot with his left foot and see what happens. But if only Bakayoko could hit a barn with a banjo, it would have been embarrassing. Yeah, I think if we score in the first half, we might end up with a fair amount of goals. We certainly could have replicated the 4-0 from last time. It created enough chances to make it extra embarrassing again for Mourinho. Florian says, felt like Morata was scared to shoot because he knows he's much better scoring with his head. Yeah, I did get that feeling. He's just not. It doesn't seem confident. Like he kind of knows what he wants to do, but the touches are not as confident as they need to be. But I don't know. The kid seems very much a confidence player. Or if you want to be mean, a head case basically. When he scores early, he plays amazing. Credit to him today for fighting through it, especially early on. He wasn't getting any calls. He got that ridiculous foul, quote unquote foul on Jones that actually denied us a goal. So, so maybe that confidence thing is harsh because he battled through that and got his goal. So, I don't know. But he seems to be one of those guys who, when he scores, he goes on scoring streaks, and when he doesn't, then the questions start, and he starts questioning himself too much, and that's probably the worst thing you can do as a professional player. He seems aware enough that he's doing this to himself, so that he can work kind of through this. But yeah, who knows? Yeah, sorry, you sound someone who was sick is a question. I've been sick for almost a whole week, so yeah, it's one of the reasons we didn't do a live video after the Roma game. The other reason was I just didn't feel like it because I don't even want to talk about this. Chuck says the whole United team except Smalling and Matic were flopping the whole match. Yeah, well. Yeah, do we really expect anything else? Especially when you have people like Ander Herrera and Ashley Young. Who else was... Jones falls down a lot, but he's more awkward than anything. I don't think Jones was necessarily flopping. He's just falling down a lot because it's Phil Jones. And that's what he does. Lingard, all these guys. It's like a diving Olympics. Valencia. Fellaini's elbows. Yeah, certainly. Ander Herrera is one of those guys that just how irritating is that guy to play against. Manchester United should appoint Pochettino. Mourinho will always park the bus. Yeah, Bailly was the worst. I don't know. Yeah, I could see that. It's always a bit disgraceful when big central defenders go flopping and looking for calls. Zappacosta could have been better. Yeah, I don't know. I saw some criticisms about Zappacosta's crossing, but otherwise I thought he was fine. He was fine enough. He provided width when he needed it. He went forward when we needed it. Crossing is a inexact science. Not even I think it's one of those things where even if you're good at crossing, you're going to hit your fair share of really bad crosses. And we're seeing Alonso overhit his crosses a fair amount these days. So he needs to dial that in a little bit. But no, I thought Zappacosta was fine enough. My only questions about Zappacosta remain in defense and defending, and I think Conte kind of agrees with those, considering as soon as on the hour mark when Mourinho put on Martial for Mkhitaryan, I can't believe Mkhitaryan lasted an hour. As it was one of those performances where you expected him to be drawn off, taken off after like 30 minutes. It was just bad. But Martial came on for Mkhitaryan, and Fellaini came on for Phil Jones. And Conte's response to that just a few minutes later was to put on Rudiger for Zappacosta. And that was probably to move Azpilicueta out of the back line and give us just a bit more height against Fellaini, because, the Mourinho plan for Fellaini is to go long, have him knock it down for somebody, and then they score from that. And Martial's speed and extra threat out wide meant we needed a bit more defending on the wing, so we moved Azpilicueta out there. So that's where Zappacosta's shortcoming is at the moment. His defensive strength, ability, solidity. Sorry, solidness. Ugh. In a way, it was the same exact defensive lineup at that point that we fielded against Roma, except with actually another change with Christensen for David Luiz. But unsurprisingly, it looked a lot better. So maybe they've been working on it, or maybe the Roma thing was just a one-off and everybody just kind of lost their mind. But that's certainly, Azpilicueta as right wing back, I don't think is a preferred solution if we're looking for goals. If you're looking to add a bit more defensive solidity to the setup, I think Cahill, either Christensen or David Luiz, and Rudiger with Azpilicueta as a wing back is our best solution. What's happening with Luiz? Was Conte right in benching him? Well, I think he was proven right because Christensen had a really good game and we kept the clean sheet. As to what happened with Luiz, that's a good question, and I'm sure we'll eventually find out, either now or like next summer when or whenever David Luiz gets sold, or maybe he gets the text message that says thanks for the seasonos, and off you go to wherever. We'll eventually find out what happened. The official reasoning is quote unquote tactical, said Conte. Where that doesn't necessarily make sense is why wasn't David Luiz on the bench then? Conte said he wanted to give Ampadu a reward because he deserves it. So put the 17-year-old on the bench instead of David Luiz. That doesn't really sound like a Conte thing to do, however, so especially not in a big game. He's not the one to give chances like that to young players just because they're young players and they deserve it or whatever. To give them this morale boost, that's not really Conte's game. I could definitely see this being an example, making an example. Basically, there's some stories since the Roma game about big big showdown meetings at Cobham between Conte and the players of, as the inquest into what happened in the second half against Roma. There's definitely some issues there in terms of mentality and all that kind of stuff to work out. So making an example of a player who possibly needed a rest anyway, or just he might have been injured anyway. It could be easily construed as a management technique. Here's David Luiz, who's been instrumental to Chelsea for the last season, plus a couple months this season. Watch me drop him and play this young kid instead, Christensen. So I could see it going down that road. I don't think it's anything that we need to be concerned about beyond today or just this game. But it's something. It's a situation that I'm sure we'll hear of plenty in the coming days, weeks, as we bore our way through this international break. But it worked out well today. Before we know what the full impact of or reasoning behind all of this might be. But always nice to see Christensen coming in and play well and making a case for himself. So that's happy with that. 75 million for Lukaku or 60 million for Morata. Who is worth it and why? I think both teams needed a striker, and so far, I don't think either one of them, either Manchester United or Chelsea, would really be unhappy with that purchase. I think they're both worth it to their own respective teams. Haircut time. Oh no, I'll just put on a hat next time so there's no hair in my face. Ugh. I think both strikers fit a specific need, just in the type of striker that was needed. United needed a striker who could score consistently against all sorts of opposition. Somebody who's a bit more mobile than Ibrahimovic, somebody who's strong, etc., etc. And we needed a striker who could play in Conte's system of a 3-4-3, 3-5-2, where you need a striker to hold up the ball, bring others into play, score with your head, etc., etc. And Conte obviously has been after Morata for a long time. So for us, I think 60 million, however much, was well worth it. For United, before Lukaku got into the slump, we could certainly say it was well worth it. So I don't know. I think this Lukaku Morata situation worked out well for both teams, and they both got the player they really wanted. So there you go. I don't think we don't need to necessarily look for any. It's something I'm sure we can debate, and possibly they will be linked by this for a while because they both were signed in the same year. The whole thing where Morata almost went to United and Lukaku almost went to Chelsea, and then suddenly they swapped at the very end. But it's what it is. PJ says, what position we need to improve? Oh, what doesn't we need to improve? I think we need to improve our depth, as always. We need somebody behind Alonso at left back, or want somebody instead of Alonso if you don't like him. And we need to start replacing, thinking about long-term planning at central defense. I could see Conte and Bakayoko. I think our first choice lineup, even today's first choice lineup, is good enough to compete with anybody, unless we play as badly against as Roma. But then it's one of those where if you play badly, it really doesn't matter who your players and what your tactics are. If you play without any belief, if you give up, as Rudiger said, it really doesn't matter. So assuming that doesn't happen, I think Chelsea's first choice lineup, such as today in the 3-5-2 or a 3-4-3 with like Conte and Bakayoko in the middle, and then a front three of like Hazard, Morata, and Pedro at the moment, is certainly good enough to take on any team in the world and give him a good game, possibly even win. The trouble is, we need the Premier League is a really strong league, and we need first choice lineups almost every time. Champions League, obviously, it's a similar situation, and we just don't have the depth to do that. So when Conte does rotate, the quality drops off too much, and we get disorganized and we get some poor performances. When he doesn't rotate, people get tired, the performance drops off, and there you go. As we get into the situation, obviously this is a situation that affects every team, but some might just get luckier, might deal better with it, and a lot of that depends on the options available to your team. You know, I mean, you look at a team like City, who have basically 6 starting quality attacking midfielders and 4 starting quality fullbacks or wingbacks, and those are 2 of the, especially the wingbacks, are absolutely key to modern football or a 3-man defense, and we just don't have that. We have Alonso as left wing back and nobody else. I mean, yeah, we have Kennedy, but apparently Kennedy was yawning in a meeting, and he's now we kept Kennedy around even after he insulted the Chinese, the whole nation of China. We kept him around, but he yawned at a meeting, and he just might be sold now. So there you go. That's what we do. So that's Kennedy. For if technically he's our left wing back. Zappacosta and Moses are both okay for the right wing, but Moses is injured, obviously, so then there's nobody beyond Zappacosta. Surely Azpilicueta obviously can play there, but it's not ideal, and it's very much a defensive look, I think, every time we play there. Baba Rahman is possibly an option for left wing back, but he's not expected to be back until January at the earliest, and even at that point he will be recovering from a year out with an ACL injury, and you don't really come back straight away from those sorts of injuries. You need several months to recover and get back up to your previous levels. So I'm not sure we should be counting with Baba Rahman. I know Conte said the other day that it's an option that we're looking at, but I think Baba Rahman will be sent out on loan for at least those 6 months to get some rehab time. It's pretty similar to the Zuma situation. You know, Zuma came back towards the end of last season, and he simply didn't get enough time to get back the comfort and the feeling that he needed to be as effective as he was before. So he needed that loan. He needed to be playing, and now he's playing at Stoke. So it's all working out. So I think Baba Rahman is probably headed in a similar direction. So maybe if we are looking to add to the squad in January, that's going to be one area that we will address to try to upgrade the left wing back situation. And then, as far as like longer term, you know, we have several players who are now over 30, and they will need to start getting replaced. People like Cahill, David Luiz, Fabregas are all over 30. I think Pedro is as well, and Willian is getting close. So you need to start rotating in the next generation in this time of transition, as Conte was reminding us. Be patient. We're just transitioning. How about Drinkwater? Yeah, I mean, Drinkwater is good. I don't know if really we're going to build around him anytime soon or ever. How old is Drinkwater? Like 28? So I think he's just fairly short term here. Zuma dribbling past that Arsenal defender. Yeah, Zuma busting out his step overs. That was always a good time. All right. So, unfortunately, as good as this win is, did anybody ever ask Conte about the David Luiz thing? I know he was asked before the game and he said it was tactical. I was just wondering if he was asked after the game. Well, I'm not sure. All right, I think we'll wrap this up here and get on with our international breaking. Uh, Chelsea won, Manchester United nil. Mourinho comes to Stamford Bridge with United again for the third time, and once again fails. The only mention of David Luiz after the game was how well Christensen did in his place. Yeah, that's good old Conte for you. You know, is concentrating on the positives. Said David needs to work harder. Oof. Everybody needs to work harder though, right? We must pay great attention and work very hard. And if we do, we will win all the games. How can we replace Fabregas? No one in the squad comes anywhere close to his level. Yeah, well, I don't think that Fabregas needs to be replaced. I think Fabregas needs to be put on the bench and used once again as the surgical, tactical late game option. But at the moment, you know, a midfield two of Conte and Bakayoko, I think is what we'll be seeing a lot. But then maybe in big games we'll see a three-man midfield or whenever with Conte, Bakayoko, and either Fabregas or Drinkwater. And I think Drinkwater, we shouldn't really expect more from him than to be just a rotation or a backup player. But it's good to have his quality off the bench as well. You know, we're looking for, you know, now we have 4 fit midfielders, and that's really what we've been looking for all season. And it's the first time, really, yeah, because Conte's been out all month, and before that, Drinkwater was injured. So it's nice to have some depth finally in key positions, some key positions. He has to work really hard, otherwise he's on the bench in the stand. He didn't really say that, did he? That's awesome. Oh no. Let's see. Well, I'm not really seeing it. But it's always awkward to try to search for this right away. Nice to see, yes. Regardless of what happens to David Luiz, I'm sure he'll handle it perfectly. Most important thing, as Conte said, is Christensen played really well. I think he possibly, yeah. Well, we should hopefully see him. Obviously, we'll have once we get back from the international break, which is the last one of the year, and there's not another one for until March or something like that. Chelsea. So the first in September and October we had international breaks, and Chelsea came back and played 7 games in 21 days each in both months, including right now, finishing up. We come back and it's going to be 14 games in 45 days after the international break. So it's a good time to get healthy. Like Moses is coming back finally as well. And it's a good time to play people like Christensen a lot and rotate him in and show that we do indeed trust them, just like today. So it's nice to see that if David Luiz if that situation devolves into something bigger than it is today, at least we can count on Christensen to be there for us and save us, and hopefully, start a long and happy and successful Chelsea career. The front three were clicking today. Can't wait to see them again. Says David Saki. Well, there's only 2 players up front, but Hazard and Morata certainly were clicking. And Hazard playing quite well once again. Even battling through all the kicking, all the usual stuff. Good games. I think good games from everybody. It's one of those where against Roma, almost nobody played well, especially certainly in the second half. Today, it's hard to think of somebody who didn't play well. I know Zappacosta got some criticisms, but I think those were a little overblown and concentrated on just a couple of back crosses. I think it's hard. It's hard to think of somebody. Courtois made a couple of good saves, kept a clean sheet. The defenders were all very good, I thought. A couple nice blocks from Cahill. Christensen obviously keeping it all together at the back. Zappacosta showing some good form after some troubles there for himself in recent games. Conte obviously the best. How nice is it to have Conte back? Oh, so nice. So nice. So all right. We're going to be a break for 2 weeks, and then we return with West Brom away. West Brom are kind of struggling. They're down in 15th. I even saw a headline that Tony Pulis, is his job safe? As if West Brom is, really expecting anything other than Pulis ball. But they did have lost 3 in a row, I think, and are winless in like 5 or something like that. So it's a bit of a rough patch there for West Brom, rougher than normal. So hopefully that will be a decent return when we do get back in a couple weeks. And after that, we head into Thanksgiving, Christmas break, holiday period. So lots of games, lots of excitement. Still have to take care of business in the Champions League. Next there will be Karabag away, so that's always a little tricky there. Still have bad luck with finishing or lack of skill. I think it's just bad luck. I think we know we have good players who can score lots of goals. Morata back in the goals today after a few games without one. So there you go. Just class is permanent, right? As they say. So I think we're just hitting. Finishing is one of those where sometimes you score with every chance, and then sometimes you miss big chances like we missed today. Like Bakayoko missed his chance, Hazard missed a couple. So sometimes it happens, and you just have to fight through it when it does, and hope that you don't pay for it. 1-0 never felt comfortable, but United didn't get their lucky goal, so. In the end, the good guys won. What's on our Champions League run? I think we're fine in the Champions League. Obviously, losing to Roma was not in the script, but I think the reaction to it was a little overblown. I think all we need if we win against Karabag, we're in the knockout rounds for sure. So if we finish second in the group, there's a bit of a much greater chance that we end up facing a really, really tough team in the first knockout round. But when you get to the last 16 of a Champions League, I'm not really sure there's any good teams that you'd want to face. And the reason we're almost guaranteed a tough draw if we finish second is because there are like 3 other English teams. They all look set to win their group, so then Chelsea can't be drawn against the teams from the same country. So we'd probably end up being drawn against Barcelona or PSG or, I don't know, like Benfica or something like that. So, yeah. That's a minor drawback, but, you got to beat the best to be the best, right? And we just need another miracle at the Camp Nou then, and it'll be fine. Okay, I thought this cut out for a minute. Yeah, so I mean, obviously, if you don't get a result at Karabag, then we're in a possibly tricky situation on the last match day at home against Atletico. But I think we'll be fine. Just have to beat Karabag, and we're in the second round. What about Jones's goal? I think it's a clean goal. I think everybody thinks it was a clean goal except Anthony Taylor, who knows, possibly had some money riding on the situation. That's just a joke. That's just a joke for all the legal reasons. But yeah, that was a terrible, terrible decision. And I guess it's one of those. It's basically, I think Jones won the foul because he is like the most awkward player of all time. And I don't know how he gets into these positions and how people, like, he keeps getting these chances, but like the man is, I don't know, is the most awkward defender, certainly in that play, and usually just is always, falling around, out of control of his body. He's gotten several concussions in his career now because he has no control over what he's doing. But there you go. He just had an awkward body shape and got himself twisted up when he tried to make that clearance, and it looked like he got pushed or tripped or whatever. But I mean, the contact that was there between Morata and Jones was laughable compared to any other play, any other normal play in the game. So it's it's just one of those where the referee, who knows what he was looking at, who knows what he was thinking. That's if that play occurs anywhere else on the pitch, it probably isn't even worthy of a second look. So I mean, I was ready to be super upset about it, but we won in the end, so I guess we don't have to be. But yeah, it's an incident that's going to be forgotten about because we did win, and I guess that's okay. That's okay in the end. In the end, what matters is we won. So good old Anthony Taylor gets away with it, with the poor performance, and oh well. Concentrating on the positives, Chelsea wins. All right, this time for real, I think we're gonna go ahead and end it. It's get on with the remaining few hours of our Sunday. I doubt we're gonna have anything to really talk about in the international break. So unless there's some super important breaking news, there probably won't be another Facebook Live thing until after the West Brom game, which is in 2 weeks, away at the Hawthorns. This makes 3 wins in a row for Chelsea in the Premier League. Obviously after Tuesday's loss, the first win, and if you're looking at all competitions. But if we're looking at Premier League, it's 3 wins in a row since the Crystal Palace loss. So maybe it's the start of a nice winning streak here, right? So Chelsea won, Manchester United 0. Alvaro Morata in the 55th minute from Azpilicueta for the 4th time already this season is the difference maker. Chelsea really dominated. I think we could call it dominated the whole game. Almost the whole game. United had a couple of chances at the end, but it's what happens in 1-goal games. So I think let's call it Chelsea dominated Manchester United. Perhaps not on the scoreboard, but certainly on the run of play. Created lots of chances, missed a couple sitters, had a goal wrongly ruled out for a push, and still won 1-0, 1-0. Got Morata a goal that he needed for his confidence. Got Chelsea the win and Conte the win that he needed just to stop having to answer stupid questions about conflict with players and coaches or owners, etc., etc. I'm sure there will be a talking point about David Luiz getting dropped for Christensen, but in the end, it worked out on the pitch, and that's where it really the only place where it really matters. think Luiz is in deep shit from now on. I think David Luiz will buckle down and work. And if he doesn't, I guess then, would be out of character for him, I think. But if he doesn't, then he'll be sold, and that's what it is. And I kind of like that we do that. That's fine. That's fine by me. If you're the coach, you got to draw the line, and this is where you draw the line. That's fine. As far as Conte ignoring Mourinho at the end, I don't really care. Conte went on the pitch to celebrate with the fans and the players, and Mourinho stood around on the touchline waiting for his handshake. Just to, he saw an opportunity to make a thing out of something. So I don't think this is ever a thing. So it's whatever. Mourinho can do whatever he wants. We need to concentrate on ourselves. Not Mourinho, Emanalo. Why would Conte do anything with Emanalo? What? I'm not really understanding why Conte and Emanalo would be a thing at an end of any game. Why that needs to be a point as to who ignores whom. What? Nah. I'm sure it's nothing. Oh, he didn't acknowledge Emanalo when he came up to congratulate him. Well, whatever. Bummer. People leave people hanging all the time. I don't think it matters at all. I don't think there's, tension. No, I don't think there's any tension between Conte and Emanalo. And I think we're giving Emanalo far too much power in this scenario. Emanalo is the man in charge of scouting and possibly identifying transfer targets. He's not a board member. He's not somebody who really will influence decisions to the level that people expect them to influence decisions. If Conte left them hanging, I'm sure they hugged it out in the tunnel. So anyway, moving on from that to the end of this video. Chelsea won, Manchester United 0. And we're going to move on with the rest of our Sunday and celebrate in style. So if you watched any part of this or the whole thing, thanks for watching. Thanks for the questions. I am in California, West Coast, so we're going to go watch some quote-unquote American football and bask in the glow of Chelsea's victory. Right, that's what we're going to do. It's about almost noon here, so we have a good 12 hours to enjoy this before the week starts again. So thanks for watching. Chelsea in 4th, but only 1 point behind 2nd place, Manchester United. The good times are back. All right, I'll talk to you later.